Right now, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the water is heating up faster than it has in 150 years of records. Not in 2015, not in 1997. Never this fast. That heat becomes your winter, your flood, your fire, your grocery bill. By the end of this, you'll know why insurers are bracing, why farmers are watching the sky, why governments are running out of time, and why your winter might already be decided. This is El Niño. And this year, forecasters are reaching for a word they almost never use: super. Here's the mechanism, in one breath. Trade winds normally push warm surface water toward Asia and Australia. Every few years, those winds weaken. All that warm water sloshes back east, toward South America, bending the jet stream, dragging rainfall belts with it, rerouting storm tracks for the entire planet. That's El Niño. Peruvian fishermen named it centuries ago. The warm current that killed their catch, showing up like clockwork around Christmas. El Niño, the little boy. They didn't understand the mechanism. They just noticed the pattern and named it. A Super El Niño just means that warm pool crosses 2 degrees Celsius above normal. Across an ocean the size of the Pacific, 2 degrees is an almost unimaginable amount of extra heat. And heat like that doesn't just sit there, it has to go somewhere. So what does a Super El Niño actually do to the world? The southern US gets a stormier season. More rain, more flooding. The West Coast gets more high tide flooding. Storm or no storm. Flip to the other side of the Pacific. Australia and Southeast Asia get hotter, drier, with wildfire risk climbing sharply. Stack all of that on top of decades of background warming, and forecasters expect 2026 and 2027 to fight it out for the hottest years ever measured. Here's the part almost nobody connects to their own life. The last Super El Niño, in 2015, wiped out roughly 7 million tons of global sugar production in a single cycle. It hammered Indonesia's palm oil harvest. It hit Vietnam's coffee crop during a drought. It tightened the global wheat supply by cutting into Australia's harvest. None of that shows up in a weather forecast. All of it shows up on your grocery receipt months later. And almost nobody traces it back to a patch of warm ocean water 10,000 miles away. We've run this experiment before. Twice. The 1997-98 Super El Niño is still considered one of the most damaging weather events of the 20th century. The UN puts the death toll above 20,000 people. Flooding, landslides, drought, fire. In Peru, floodwater washed out entire towns. At the same moment, on the other side of the Pacific, Indonesia's rainforests were burning, blanketing Southeast Asia in smoke for months. Same event. 2 opposite disasters. 10,000 miles apart. The 2015-16 event triggered coral bleaching so severe some reef systems still haven't recovered. A decade later, it reshaped disease outbreaks on 3 continents. Malaria, dengue, cholera, all spiking in past strong El Niño years, as flooding and shifting rainfall changed where mosquitoes and contaminated water could spread. Here's what makes this year different. Every major forecasting center on Earth is looking at the same data, landing on the same number. 11 out of 13 model runs say this reaches full Super El Niño strength. 8 of those say it beats the current record holder, 1982. Right now, the ocean is warming faster than it was at this point in 1997. Faster than in 2015. The last 2 Super El Niños on record, and this one's already ahead of both. Some forecasters are reaching all the way back to 1877 for a comparison, because that might be the only thing in a century and a half that comes close. You don't need to go back that far to see what this pattern does. The 2023-24 El Niño was only moderate, and it still drove atmospheric rivers into California, overwhelmed reservoirs, buried the Sierra Nevada in snow. That was the warm-up act. What's forming for this winter is already tracking stronger. And this one isn't happening in a vacuum. Every Super El Niño lands on top of whatever the planet's baseline temperature already is. In 1997, that baseline was lower. In 2015, higher. In 2026, higher still. That's exactly why forecasters keep reaching for the word record before the event has even finished forming. Models agree. This one peaks in winter 2026 into 2027. The flooding, the fires, the record heat. That's not behind you, it's still ahead. If the forecast is this consistent, you'd expect everyone downstream to already be preparing. Mostly, they aren't. Drainage systems and levees in the most exposed regions are still sized for an average winter. Upgrading them is expensive and politically unpopular, right up until the water is inside someone's living room. Which means the lead time this year isn't something you can outsource to anyone else. It's yours to use. Here's the part that should make you feel better, not worse. El Niño isn't permanent. Most events run their course in under a year and a half, then the Pacific swings back toward neutral, sometimes all the way into a cooler La Niña. This is a season, not a life sentence. And the warning itself is good news. Climate disasters have gotten 5 times more frequent over the last 50 years. Deaths from them have fallen almost threefold in that same window. Because early warning systems work. Countries with a real one in place see death tolls drop by a factor of 6. Right now, you're standing inside that warning. The Pacific Ocean has already decided how this winter plays out. The only question left? Do you listen before it arrives? Or after?